Furious at her husband for cheating, Rachel was packing her suitcases, no longer wanting to see the traitor. But when she heard the screech of a key in the lock, she decided to exit through the backyard. Yet the voices of those who entered made her freeze. The bedroom in the Smiths' country house was bathed in twilight. Rachel lay awake, listening to her husband's steady breathing. Oliver, who had returned yesterday from a business trip, was curled up asleep, as he had done for 20 years of their marriage. Oliver's phone on the bedside table vibrated. Rachel glanced at the screen absent-mindedly and froze. A message glowed in the dark. "My silky tiger, you are wonderful. I already miss you. Thank you for these 2 days." Her fingers grew cold. One thought pulsed in her mind. While her husband was on the business trip, he had spent those days with another woman. The word business trip echoed in her head. Rachel swallowed convulsively, feeling nausea rise in her throat. She cautiously stood up and, legs unsteady, made her way to the bathroom. The cold tiles under her bare feet sobered her. Rachel turned on the water, held her palms under the icy stream, and splashed water on her face. In the fogged mirror, she barely recognized her reflection. 20 years, she whispered. 20 years of life. Morning light flooded the kitchen. Oliver, unsuspecting, hurriedly ate breakfast. "You look pale today," he noted, spreading butter on toast. "Did you sleep badly?" "Yes," Rachel set a cup of coffee in front of him. "I had a strange dream. As if everything I believed in turned out to be a lie." Oliver frowned but immediately smiled. "Dreams are just dreams. What we have is real and wonderful, right?" Rachel smiled, feeling inside that something was wrong with the falsehood. "Of course." He kissed her on the cheek. "I have to go. Important meeting today." When the door closed behind her husband, Rachel grabbed her phone and dialed Alice. "Hi, friend." Rachel's voice sounded unnaturally cheerful. "Can you meet? We need to talk." The cafe greeted them with its usual coziness. Alice was already waiting at their favorite table. "You look terrible," she said instead of greeting. "What happened?" "Oliver is cheating on me," Rachel blurted out, watching her friend's reaction. Alice flinched, her fingers nervously drumming on the cup. "Why do you think that?" Her voice was too fast, too high. "I saw a message on his phone. My silky tiger, can you imagine?" Rachel gave a bitter smile. 20 years together, and I didn't even know I had a tiger. Maybe it's a misunderstanding." Alice looked away. Why was she reacting so strangely, as if she knew more than she was saying? Rachel thought. No, Rachel shook her head. It said, "Thank you for these 2 days. While I thought he was on the business trip, he was with her." "And what are you going to do?" Alice deliberately steadied the contents of her cup. "Leave. Pack my things and take the kids to my parents. Jeremy will come home from university for the weekend. Brittany is currently on a school trip. I'll pick them up, and goodbye, Tiger." "Are you sure that's the right decision?" There was a strange tension in Alice's voice. "Is there another?" "Stay and pretend everything is fine." Alice was clearly nervous. What's wrong with her? Why is she protecting him like that? Rachel wondered. "Listen, are you my friend or his lawyer?" she asked sharply. "Of course, your friend," Alice replied too quickly. "I just don't want you to act rashly. 20 years of marriage isn't rash. It's a whole life he trampled with his betrayal." Rachel stood up. "I have to go. I need to pack before he returns." On the way home, Rachel called her son. "Jeremy, hi," she started, trying to sound calm. Mom, what happened? Your voice sounds strange. Listen carefully. I need you to pick up Brittany from the trip after classes and take her to Grandma and Grandpa's. What? Why? Her son's voice was filled with worry. I'll explain everything later. I can't talk right now, I'm driving. Just do as I ask, okay? Is something wrong with Dad? Did you two argue? Jeremy, Rachel took a deep breath. It's hard to explain over the phone. I'm also going to my parents and will meet you there. Please, don't argue with me right now. Okay, he replied after a pause. I'll pick up Brittany and come to Grandma's. But are you really okay? I'll be fine when both of you are at Grandma's. Call me when you pick up your sister. At home, Rachel rushed to pack her suitcases. The bedroom still held the scent of Oliver's cologne. Now, that once familiar fragrance only made her feel sick. In Brittany's room, she wiped away a tear as she packed her daughter's favorite pajamas into the bag. Her son's room was almost empty. Most of his things were kept at his university dorm. How could he? How could he destroy everything we built over the years? Thoughts jumbled, hands trembling. Rolling the suitcases into the hallway, Rachel suddenly remembered her daughter's school backpack. Tomorrow was Monday. She needed her textbooks. Damn, I'll have to go back, she muttered, loading the luggage into the car. It was already dark when she returned for the forgotten items. The house greeted her with an unsettling emptiness. Rachel quickly found her daughter's backpack, threw it over her shoulder, and headed toward the exit. Suddenly, she heard the screech of a key in the lock. Her heart pounded wildly. Oliver? Too early, a panicked thought flashed through her mind. There was only one way out, the back door. Rachel dashed to the kitchen but froze halfway when she heard voices. Two voices, a man's and a woman's. My tigress, why so nervous? Oliver was saying. Rachel suspects nothing. I'm not sure, the woman replied. She seemed strange today. Like she knows something. Rachel froze, unable to believe her ears. She would recognize that voice anywhere. Alice. Her best friend. The sound of footsteps coming up the stairs snapped Rachel out of her shock. They were heading to the bedroom. Their bedroom. Rachel stood in the dim hallway, listening to the creaking steps of Oliver and Alice ascending. Each creak echoed in her ears like a gunshot. He once carried me up these stairs in his arms, flashed through her mind. Rachel shook off the numbness. Her legs felt like lead, but she forced herself to move. Step by step, holding the wall, she climbed the stairs. The bedroom door was ajar. Muffled voices and giggles came from inside. Rachel took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Flicking on the light switch, she flooded the room with bright light. Oliver and Alice froze like frightened rabbits. He was wearing a half-unbuttoned shirt. She had tousled hair. That's not what you think. Oliver blurted out, stepping away from Alice. Alice remained silent, her eyes wide with horror. Really? Rachel asked in an icy tone. And exactly what did I think, Oliver? He began. Just what? Rachel interrupted. Just decided to test the strength of our bed? Such care from both of you. A hurricane raged inside her. But outwardly she remained calm, as if watching from the outside, like in some strange movie about someone else's life. Rachel, listen, Alice finally spoke. You? Rachel turned to her former friend. I listened to you for 20 years. Every time you said, Oliver is such a wonderful husband. You're such a perfect couple. How many years have you been sleeping with my husband, friend? Let's talk calmly. Oliver stepped toward her. Don't come closer. She held out her hand. I don't want to hear your excuses. I have both of them on my phone. You're my tigress, and her my silky tiger. Oliver went pale. I've packed my things, Rachel continued. The kids will live with me. And you enjoy your little menagerie. She turned and left, feeling her knees trembling. Oliver rushed after her. Wait. It's not like that. Let's talk. About what? Rachel grabbed her suitcase. About how you both lied to me. How you went on that business trip. How she supported me during the hard times. He was silent. I love you, Oliver finally whispered. It's a pity you didn't explain that to your tigress. Rachel flung open the front door. The car sped down the night highway. Rachel drove without paying attention to the road. Tears blurred her vision. Thoughts were jumbled. Fragments of memories flashed through her mind. First meeting Oliver at university, the wedding, the birth of their children, vacations, holidays. And Alice was always there, her best friend, the witness at their wedding, the godmother to their children. How could I not notice? That thought burned the most. Suddenly, the fuel light came on. The tank was nearly empty. That's all I needed, Rachel muttered, turning toward the nearest gas station. The station was brightly lit with fluorescent lights. The small shop at the station was still open, though almost empty. Rachel filled the tank and went inside to pay. Behind the counter stood a tall man with a neat beard. Tough night? He asked, taking her card. How did you guess? Rachel snapped sharply. Usually people don't cry while filling up their car, he calmly noted. Rachel touched her face absent-mindedly. Her cheeks were indeed wet. Sorry, she tried to smile. Everyone has bad days, the man nodded. Want some coffee? On the house. No, thanks. Rick, he introduced himself, owner of this station and also the night clerk. And I insist on the coffee. Judging by your eyes, you have a long way to go, and fatigue behind the wheel is a bad companion. 5 minutes later, they sat at a small table in the corner of the store, and Rachel, without quite understanding why, was telling this stranger what had happened. 20 years of marriage, can you imagine? And she was there all along. Rachel's voice trembled. My best friend, the godmother of my children. Sometimes those we trust most are capable of causing the deepest pain, Rick said, handing her a napkin. The worst part is, I always thought our marriage was strong. Oliver and I met at university. It was such a romantic story. She stopped abruptly. And now I realize that maybe it was all a lie from the very beginning. Not everything that ends badly was bad from the start, Rick observed. Do you have children? That's the real thing. For the first time that evening, Rachel truly smiled. Do you always philosophize with customers at the gas station? Only with those who cry while filling up, Rick smiled back. Where are you headed at this hour? To the kids. They're already there. But I'm not sure it's a good idea. My mom always said, a good marriage is built on the wife's patience. What do you think? I think a good marriage is built on honesty. And we didn't have that. Before leaving, they exchanged phone numbers, at Rick's suggestion. In case you want to fill up again and talk about life, he joked. Her parents' house welcomed Rachel with dim light and silence. Everyone was already asleep. She quietly went to her room and collapsed onto the bed without undressing. In the morning, she was awakened by the smell of her mother's pancakes and her daughter's clear voice. Mom! Wake up! Grandma is calling you for breakfast. The whole family gathered at the table, her parents, daughter Brittany, and unexpectedly, her son Jeremy, who had come from university. And Oliver. What is he doing here? Rachel asked coldly as she entered the kitchen. I invited him, her mother replied. You two need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Kids, go to the garden, Grandma commanded. The adults need to have a conversation. When the children left, Rachel turned to her mother. Why did you do this? Because a family must be preserved, she answered bluntly. All men cheat. The main thing is that they come back home. Mom, Rachel was left speechless with indignation. Your mother is right, their father suddenly interrupted. Family is the most important thing. Rachel shifted her gaze from one to the other. Are you serious? The tense breakfast passed in strained silence. Afterwards, everyone left, leaving Rachel and Oliver alone. I still love you, Oliver began. What happened destroyed 20 years of my life, Rachel cut in. And it's not just about the affair. It's about betrayal. Double betrayal. I can explain everything. Don't bother. I'm filing for divorce. In the evening, after Oliver left, Rachel's mother came into her room. You're making a mistake. All men are like that. And all women have to endure it. Rachel asked bitterly. Her mother looked away. Your father cheated on me too. Many years ago. I forgave him, and we live happily. Happily? Rachel looked at her mother with new eyes. That's what you call happiness? Before going to sleep, Rachel took out her phone and stared at Rick's number for a long time. Not daring to call, she put the phone on the nightstand and went to the window. Moonlight outlined her silhouette. Somewhere deep inside, a strange feeling was stirring. Perhaps it was the beginning of a new life. Morning in her parents' house started slowly. The hands of the old clock lazily marked time, and the floorboards creaked under Rachel's feet as she made her way to the kitchen. The smell of last night's dinner mixed with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Can't sleep? Her mother appeared in the doorway, wearing a worn-out robe. After your revelations yesterday, not really, Rachel poured herself some coffee. Why have you never told me about Dad? Things like that aren't talked about, her mother pursed her lips. Especially with children. I'm 40, Mom. I'm not a child anymore. But you behave like one, her mother replied tiredly, sitting opposite her. You're throwing your husband out over one affair. With my best friend, Rachel reminded her. That's not an affair. That's betrayal. Their argument was interrupted by a knock at the door. It's Oliver, her mother said. I invited him to talk again. What? Rachel protested. He's the father of your children. You owe him a chance to explain. Rachel shook her head but didn't argue. 10 minutes later, she and Oliver were sitting on a bench in her parents' garden. The apple trees were beginning to bloom, the air filled with freshness and a sense of renewal, a stark contrast to their dying marriage. I messed up, Oliver started. His rumpled suit and stubble spoke of a sleepless night. And I'm not asking for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. Then why are you here? Rachel asked coldly. I want you to know, I still love you. And Alice? Oliver fell silent, lost in thought. It's complicated, he finally said. No, it's quite simple, Rachel stood up. You love both of us, or think you do. But I'm not going to be part of that triangle. Rachel. 20 years. 20 years were wonderful, she interrupted. But they're over. I'm filing for divorce. Rachel found her mother in the dusty living room. Family photos on the shelves seemed to look at her reproachfully. You really are letting him go? Her mother's voice was tinged with disappointment. What else could I do? Beg him to come back? You should have fought for your family. Like you did? Yes, Rachel blurted out. Endure and stay silent. Don't you dare judge me, her mother's eyes filled with tears. Do you think it was easy for me to see your father involved with someone else? To know and pretend everything was fine? But why? Rachel asked quietly. Why endure it? Because I loved him, her mother answered simply. And I loved you. I didn't want you to grow up without a father. Rachel was silent, struck by her mother's honesty. And you never once thought of leaving? She finally asked. I thought about it, her mother admitted. Every day. But then I looked at you and realized I couldn't. And now, are you happy? I've gotten used to my life. And happiness is an illusion that comes and goes. The main thing is family. For me, the main thing is self-respect, Rachel said firmly. I can't live with a man who betrayed me with my best friend. And what will you tell the children? The truth, Rachel answered calmly. They have the right to know. Talking to the children turned out to be harder than she expected. Jeremy, serious and reserved as always, sat on the bed in his old room, sorting through sports awards. Brittany, emotional, impulsive, was drawing something in a notebook. I need to talk to you, Rachel began. About the divorce? Jeremy asked directly. You know? I'm not blind, Mom. And not deaf either. The whole house heard your conversation yesterday. Brittany lifted her head. Dad cheated on you with Aunt Alice? Rachel sighed. How could he? Brittany exclaimed. She's your best friend. People make mistakes, Jeremy said quietly. At that moment he looked more like his father than ever, the same thoughtful gaze, the same furrow between his brows. Cheating with your best friend isn't a mistake, it's a choice, Brittany objected. And choices always have consequences. I don't want you to hate your father, Rachel said gently, looking at her children. He still loves you. Do you still love him? Jeremy asked. Rachel thought for a moment. I don't know what I feel right now. But I do know one thing, I can't stay in this marriage. Grandma says you should forgive him, Brittany noted. Grandma has her own ideas about marriage, Rachel replied softly. I have mine. I will support whatever decision you make. Jeremy squeezed his mother's hand. Just don't torture yourself, okay? In the study of her parents' house, Rachel was sorting through boxes of things brought from her apartment. In one of them she found an old photo album, yellowed pictures from college years. Young Oliver, smiling Rachel, and Alice, always standing slightly apart with a gaze fixed on Oliver. How could I not see it? Rachel thought, flipping through the pages. Her phone vibrated, breaking her thoughts. An unknown number appeared on the screen. Hello, Rachel said. Good evening, came a familiar low voice from the receiver. This is Rick from the gas station. I hope I'm not being too persistent. No, not at all, Rachel smiled unexpectedly. It's nice to hear a friendly voice. How are you settling in with your parents? It's temporary. I'm filing for divorce and looking for an apartment. Determined, Rick noted. Many in your situation hesitate for a long time, but for some reason I don't hesitate. As if everything suddenly became perfectly clear, Rachel admitted. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. A minute later, Her mother appeared in the doorway. "You have a visitor," she said dryly. Alice appeared in the doorway, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. "Sorry, I'll call you back," Rachel quickly said, saying goodbye to Rick. She turned to her former friend. "What do you want? To talk?" Alice looked exhausted. "Please, Rachel, I have to explain everything." "Explain what?" "How you slept with my husband or how you lied to my face all these years." "I loved him," Alice said quietly. "Even before you met." Rachel froze, watching as Alice sank onto a chair. "I was in love with Oliver from our freshman year. But he chose you, and I just stayed close." Rachel looked at the woman she had considered her best friend for 20 years and didn't recognize her. "You stayed close?" She repeated. "You became my friend just to be closer to him?" "At first, yes," Alice lowered her eyes. "But then I truly grew to love you as a friend." "That wasn't a lie, Rachel." "But you still slept with my husband." "It happened recently," Alice raised her tear-streaked eyes. 3 months ago, at his company's corporate party. We both drank too much." "Spare me the details," Rachel cut her off. "I'm not making excuses," Alice continued. "I just want you to know, it didn't last for years. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" Rachel smiled bitterly. "Thinking thrice before calling your friend is a mistake. Accidentally buying milk instead of kefir is a mistake. Sleeping with your best friend's husband is betrayal. Double betrayal." "I know," Alice whispered. "And I hate myself for it." "Why him?" Rachel suddenly asked. "Why him all these years?" "I don't know," Alice shrugged. "First love. It doesn't let go." "Haven't you thought he was using you?" Rachel asked sharply. Alice flinched. "What do you mean?" "All these years you stayed close, looking at him with loving eyes. It flatters a man's ego. And when the chance came, he took advantage of it." "No, it wasn't like that," Alice shook her head. "What was it really?" Rachel interrupted. "He loves you," Alice said. "Then why does he beg me to come back?" Alice paled. "He came to you even more, and still does. He swears he loves me. Says you and he were a mistake." "It can't be." Alice looked confused. "He told me." "What did he say?" Rachel leaned forward. "That he loves you. That he will divorce me." Alice was silent, nervously twisting a handkerchief in her fingers. "God, we're both such fools," Rachel shook her head. "You, because you waited 20 years for him to notice you. And me, because I didn't see what was happening right under my nose for 20 years. What are you going to do?" Alice asked quietly. "Divorce. Start a new life." "And you?" "I don't know." Alice looked lost. "I always imagined that if Oliver and I ever ended up together, it would be different." "Do you really believe he'll choose you?" Rachel looked at her with genuine curiosity. "Why not?" "He always came back to me. After your fights, when he needed advice, when—" "Stop," Rachel raised her hand. "You're saying something happened between you before?" Alice fell silent, as if realizing she had said too much. "Answer me," Rachel demanded. "Not physically," Alice hurriedly answered, "but emotionally." "Yes, we were always close. He told me things he never told you." Rachel felt nausea rise in her throat. All these years she had lived a lie, not only about the affair but about the very nature of her husband's relationship with her best friend. "Leave," she said quietly. Just leave, Alice, leave. I don't want to see you. When the door closed behind Alice, Rachel collapsed onto the table. Memories flashed before her eyes: university, her first meeting with Oliver, Alice, always somewhere nearby. Their wedding, where Alice was the maid of honor. The birth of their children, vacations, holidays. How much falsehood had there been over the years, how many things left unsaid? What else didn't she know about her perfect marriage? There was a soft knock on the door. It was her mother. Has she left? She asked, peeking into the room. Yes. Rachel nodded wearily. And what did she want? To say she loved Oliver even before he met me. I see, her mother said, sitting down beside her. And do you believe her? Why would she lie now? Rachel shrugged. Everything's already ruined. What are you going to do? What I already said. I'm getting a divorce. Her mother sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. Don't repeat my mistakes, Rachel. Yours? Rachel looked at her mother in surprise. But you stayed with Dad. Exactly, her mother replied quietly. And every day I asked myself, what if I had left? What if I had found the strength to start over? But you always said. I said what I tried to make myself believe, her mother interrupted. That I did the right thing. That family matters most. That happiness is an illusion. Rachel stared at her mother in shock. For the first time in many years, she saw not just a strict woman with conservative views, but a human being with doubts, pain, and regrets. Why are you telling me this now? Rachel asked. Because I see myself in you, 25 years ago. Her mother took her hand. I faced the same choice and did what I thought was right. I stayed, for your sake. But years later I realized I might have done you a disservice. I showed you that a woman must endure, must submit, must live in a man's shadow. But you were always strong, Rachel objected. Strong, her mother gave a bitter smile. Strength isn't endurance for endurance's sake. Strength is the ability to change your life, even when it's scary. The ability to admit a mistake and start over. And you want me to leave Oliver? Rachel asked, surprised. I want you to do what I couldn't, her mother answered simply. Choose yourself. In the silence of the room, they sat together, mother and daughter, separated by a generation but united by shared pain. Outside, a spring storm was beginning, fierce, cleansing. Rachel's phone rang again. It's Rick, she said to her mother. The guy from the gas station. Should I answer? Her mother squeezed her hand. And remember, life doesn't end at 40. Rachel took a deep breath and answered the call. Something told her this conversation might be the beginning of a new chapter in her life. The courthouse greeted Rachel with cold marble corridors and the echo of footsteps. Wooden benches, polished by time and countless fates decided here, felt solemnly out of place for something as personal as divorce. Dressed in a tailored suit, her hair tied back, Rachel looked composed and determined, though a storm raged inside her. Across from her sat Oliver, haggard, shoulders slumped, as if the weight of their choices physically pressed down on him. Let's move on to the division of property, the judge said dryly. Rachel's lawyer began reading their demands, but Oliver suddenly interrupted. I'm giving up all the property in favor of the children. What? Rachel's lawyer looked at his client in surprise. The house, the cars, the accounts, everything goes to the children. I insist, Oliver said firmly. The judge looked at him with interest. You do understand that this is significantly more than the plaintiff is requesting? I understand, Oliver nodded. This is my decision. Rachel stared at him in disbelief. What is this? Regret, manipulation, or something else? Her attention was drawn to a movement at the entrance. Alice, she whispered as the woman quietly entered and took a seat in the last row. Rachel noticed how Oliver's face changed. Instead of the joy she had expected, there was a strange detachment in his eyes. Underscore 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 underscore. 6 months later, Rachel stood in the middle of her new apartment, trying to get used to the idea that this was now her home. The boxes were still unpacked, but signs of a new beginning were already visible: fresh flowers on the windowsill, children's photos on the walls. Mom, where should I put this box? Jeremy was holding a container filled with dishes. In the kitchen, sweetheart, Rachel smiled at her son. How much he looked like his father at that age. The same gestures, the same tilt of the head. Look what I painted for our new living room. Brittany showed her a colorful painting of an abstract landscape. It's our fresh start. Rachel hugged her daughter. It's beautiful. Just like our life, bright, still unclear, but full of promise. The doorbell rang. I'll get it, Jeremy volunteered. Standing at the door was Rick, holding a bouquet of wildflowers and a bottle of wine. Hope I'm not intruding, he smiled. Thought I'd stop by with a traditional housewarming gift. Perfect timing, Rachel gestured for him to come in. We were just about to take a break from unpacking boxes. Over the past 6 months, they had met several times, first for brief coffee breaks, then for longer conversations. Rick turned out to be a good listener and never rushed things, as if he instinctively knew Rachel needed time. Kids, Rachel said, introducing him, this is my friend, Rick. Jeremy and Rick shook hands. Jeremy's grip was reserved but firm. Brittany was more enthusiastic. You're the Rick from the gas station? Mom told us how you saved her that night. Saved is probably a strong word, Rick smiled. I just offered her a coffee. Sometimes a cup of coffee can save the world, Brittany said seriously. That evening, after the kids had gone to their rooms and Rick had left, Rachel continued unpacking another box of old belongings. At the bottom, she found a stack of letters tied with a faded ribbon. Rachel didn't recognize them at first. When she opened the first envelope, she saw Alice's handwriting, delicate letters written in blue ink. Addressed to Oliver. August 11th, 1998. Oliver, I don't understand why you're not answering my letters. It's been 2 months since you left. I check the mailbox every day. Rachel sifted through the envelopes, all from Alice, all addressed to Oliver. Dated a year before Rachel and Oliver met in university. In the last letter, Alice wrote, I've come to accept your silence. Apparently, our love meant something only to me. Goodbye. I won't write again. Attached was a photo of very young Alice and Oliver standing in front of a wooden fence. They looked happy, in love. They had known each other before university. Rachel couldn't believe it. Why had neither of them ever mentioned it? Yes, they had been childhood neighbors. Her mother-in-law poured tea into delicate porcelain cups. Oliver's parents' house hadn't changed over the years, the same neat garden with trimmed hedges, the same sunny veranda with wicker furniture. Only his mother had clearly aged, gray hair tied in a tidy bun, trembling hands. Why did no one ever talk about it? Rachel asked. Oliver never liked to remember, her mother-in-law sighed. It was his first love. And it ended painfully. What happened? When he was 16, we moved, his mother said. It was your father-in-law's job transfer. Oliver kept writing to Alice, but she never responded. Then we found out she had a new boyfriend. But in her letters, she says Oliver never answered her, Rachel said, confused. Her mother-in-law looked at her, puzzled. What letters? I found a whole stack of letters from Alice. She writes that she waited for months for a reply from Oliver. Strange. Her mother-in-law fell into thought. Oliver sent her a letter every week. Then one day, his friend told him he saw Alice with another boy. Oliver was heartbroken, and then he met me at university, Rachel said, starting to piece the puzzle together. Yes, the older woman nodded. He saw her during the first week of classes and was stunned. She acted coldly, like she barely knew him. And then? Then he met me, Rachel finished. Yes. Her mother-in-law looked away. He met you right after that. And, at first, you were revenge. Rachel's voice trembled. At first, maybe, her mother-in-law admitted honestly. He wanted to show Alice he was happy with someone else. But Rachel, he truly did fall in love with you. I never saw him as happy as he was during the early years of your marriage. So what happened? Why did he go back to her? I don't think he went back, she replied, shaking her head. Alice was always around, always waiting. She was a symbol of his first love. And when a man hits a midlife crisis, such symbols become especially dangerous. Rachel sat in silence, absorbing it all. The marriage she believed to be the epitome of love at first sight had been built on lies. Or had it? Maybe I shouldn't have told you, her mother-in-law said guiltily. But you deserve the truth. What's going on between them now? Rachel asked. Nothing, her mother-in-law said in surprise. Oliver avoids her. He says she ruined his life. Underscore 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 underscore. Twice, Rachel went to the park near her new home, trying to sort out her thoughts. A bench beneath an old oak tree, the whisper of leaves overhead, this place had always helped her think. Was their marriage built on a lie, or were those 20 years real, regardless of how they began? She didn't know what to feel. Anger gave way to sorrow, sorrow to a strange sense of clarity. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Oliver's name lit up the screen. Can we meet? He asked, skipping any pleasantries. I need to talk to you. About what? Rachel asked coldly. About our past. There was determination in his voice. There are things you need to know. Rachel hesitated. Was it worth reopening old wounds that had already caused so much pain? This is important, Rachel, Oliver insisted. I've wronged you in more ways than just cheating. There's something else you need to know. Evening twilight wrapped around Rachel's apartment. When the doorbell rang, she opened it to find Oliver standing there. He looked different, older, but also more honest. Thank you for agreeing to see me, he said as he stepped inside. Get to the point, Rachel said. She had no intention of making this easy for him. I found this. Oliver handed her an envelope. I think it explains everything. Inside was an old letter, its ink faded. It was from Alice's grandmother to her mother. Alice is suffering so much over that boy. I intercepted his letters, all 5 of them, and never gave them to her. It's better if she thinks he forgot about her. She needs to focus on her studies. Besides, that Simon is from a respectable family, unlike Oliver. Her grandmother intercepted our letters, Oliver said quietly. Neither of us got answers. All these years, we both thought the other had simply stopped caring. Where did you find this? Rachel asked, still in disbelief. At Alice's house. After you caught us. He paused. Alice and I talked, truly talked, for the first time in many years, and we decided to sort out what happened back in our youth. She asked her mother to find the old letters, and this one turned up. And now what? Rachel tried to make her voice sound indifferent. You'll finally be together, like you dreamed of in your youth? No, Oliver shook his head. It just solved an old mystery, but it didn't change the present. What happened between us, that was a mistake, an attempt to bring back a past that never truly existed. And our marriage? Rachel looked him straight in the eyes. That was a mistake too. A way to get revenge. Oliver lowered his head at first. Yes, I saw Alice at university. She acted like she barely knew me. I was angry, hurt, and when I met you, so vibrant, open, nothing like her, I thought it was the perfect way to prove that I was happy without her. Rachel felt a lump rise in her throat, so our marriage, our children, 20 years of life, all born out of revenge. No, Oliver raised his eyes to her. At the beginning, yes. Maybe there was an element of revenge. But later I truly fell in love with you, Rachel, deeply and sincerely. You became my real life, and Alice just a ghost of the past. Then why? Rachel asked softly. Why did you ruin everything? Midlife crisis, stupidity, selfishness, Oliver shrugged. Alice was always around, always looked at me like I was the center of the universe. At some point, I just wanted to feel young again, to feel that youthful thrill. And did it work? There was bitterness in Rachel's voice. No, Oliver answered honestly. I realized the past can't be brought back, and that I destroyed the present with my own hands. Why are you telling me this now? Rachel asked. What do you want? I don't know, Oliver spread his arms. Maybe forgiveness? Or maybe I just want you to know that what we had was real, despite the false beginning. Rachel was silent, staring out the window. The first autumn leaves swirled in the air, carried by the wind. Half a year since the divorce had changed not only her life but the whole world around her. I can't come back, Oliver, she finally said. Too many lies, too much pain. I know, he nodded. I just wanted you to know the whole truth. When the door closed behind Oliver, Rachel walked to the window. Fallen leaves reminded her that sometimes you have to let go of the past to move forward. The first frosts hinted at the fragility of relationships, while the warm autumn colors symbolized a mature, more conscious love that might still lie ahead. Her phone chimed with a new message from Rick. How about dinner on Saturday? Just you and me, no talk about the past. Rachel smiled and replied with pleasure. It was time to start a new chapter. The living room in Rachel's apartment was lit only by the soft glow of a table lamp. The steady ticking of the clock emphasized the weight of the moment. Rachel looked tired but calm. It had been a long time since she'd felt her heart race at the thought of Oliver, no pain, no love. Just a gentle sadness for the years lost. Outside, the autumn night rustled. Gusts of wind swept fallen leaves along the pavement. Occasional raindrops tapped against the glass. Rachel wrapped a warm shawl around her shoulders and dialed Rick's number. Are you awake? She asked instead of a greeting. For you, always, his voice smiled. Oliver came over. He told me the whole truth about Alice, about how our marriage began, and how he feels. Strange, she admitted, as if closing the final page of a long book. Sad that the story's over, but also relieved, everything is finally clear. Want me to come over? Rick offered. The kids are home. Rachel smiled. But tomorrow we could meet. I think it's time I get to know more about you than just Rick from the gas station. Gladly, he agreed. There's a place I'd like to show you. The next day, Rick met her at a small cemetery on the outskirts of town. In his hands, he held a bouquet of white chrysanthemums. Let me introduce you to Chloe, he said, pointing to a neat grave with a portrait of a young woman. My wife. She died in a car accident 5 years ago. Rachel silently looked at the photo, fair hair, a radiant smile, eyes full of life. She was only 30, Rick continued, gently placing the flowers. We were together for 8 years, made plans, dreamed of having children. I'm sorry. Rachel touched his hand. For the first 2 years, I was just surviving. Rick looked at the portrait. Work, home, the cemetery, no friends, no hobbies, just memories and pain. What changed? Rachel asked. One day I realized that Chloe would have hated that kind of life. For the first time during the conversation, he smiled. She always used to say that life is movement. If you stop, you're dead. She was a wise woman. Yes, Rick adjusted the flowers on the grave. I started small. Bought that gas station, got into photography. Gradually, I learned to breathe fully again. He turned to Rachel. And then a woman with tear-filled eyes pulled into my station and turned my life upside down. You're exaggerating, Rachel said, embarrassed. Not at all, Rick took her hand. When your future is taken from you, you start to truly value the present and the people who enter your life. They left the cemetery in silence. The day was overcast but warm, a true golden autumn. I got used to talking to her, Rick admitted when they sat in the car. Telling her about my days, asking for advice. That's probably silly, right? Not at all, Rachel shook her head. I think she's still part of you. Yes, but not the part that keeps me from moving forward. More like the foundation I'm using to build a new life. Rick turned the ignition key. You know, she would have liked you. A surprise was waiting for Rachel at home. Her mother was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. Where are the kids? Rachel looked confused at the set table. Jeremy took Brittany to a contemporary art exhibit, her mother said, turning away from the stove. I thought we needed to talk. Just the two of us. Rachel cautiously sat down at the table. Her mother turned off the burner and sat across from her. About us. About how I was wrong. Wrong about what? Rachel asked carefully. About everything, her mother spread her hands. About how I reacted to your divorce. About pressuring you to keep the family together. About not being there for you when you were hurting. Mom, no. Let me finish. All these years, I lived by rules I made up myself. That a family must be preserved at all costs. That all men cheat. That a woman must endure. I was so afraid of making a mistake that I forgot what really matters, happiness. Yours and mine. Weren't you happy with Dad? Rachel asked quietly. I was, her mother answered thoughtfully, in those moments when I forgot about his affairs. But those moments grew shorter and shorter. She looked at her daughter. I don't want you to repeat my fate. To sit here 30 years from now wondering, what if I had chosen differently? Rachel was silent, stunned by her mother's unexpected honesty. "This Rick, is he a good man?" her mother asked, shifting the topic. "I think so," Rachel nodded. "He's a widower. Today he introduced me to his wife, or rather, to her grave." "That's a serious step." Her mother looked at her thoughtfully. "So you're not just a passing presence in his life?" "We're just getting to know each other," Rachel shrugged. "No rush, no expectations." "Exactly," her mother smiled wisely. "You know what I've learned these past few months? Watching your courage to start over." "For what?" "That it's never too late to change your life." Her mother straightened up. "I've decided to volunteer for an expedition to the lake. I've always dreamed of seeing it." "And Dad?" Rachel asked in surprise. "He can decide for himself," her mother replied firmly. "Whether to come with me or stay behind. I'm no longer building my life around his decisions." On Saturday, Rachel accepted Rick's invitation, dinner for just the two of them, no talk of the past. He invited her to his home, a small but cozy cottage on the outskirts of town. Bookshelves reached the ceiling, an antique globe stood in the corner. Rachel smiled, looking around. "That's exactly how I imagined your home." "Predictable, huh?" Rick asked. "Recognizable," Rachel corrected. "Your home is a lot like you, calm, dependable, with character." "And here I was thinking I was mysterious and unpredictable," he sighed jokingly. "Not to a woman with experience." Rachel raised her glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," Rick echoed. "And to not being afraid of them." After dinner, they sat on the porch, watching the first stars appear. "You know," Rick said thoughtfully, "when Chloe died, I thought I'd never be happy again, that my ability to love had died with her." "And now?" Rachel asked softly. "And now I realize that the heart can love many times, in different ways, but just as sincerely." He took her hand. "I don't want to rush things, Rachel. Let's just get to know each other, day by day, with no pressure and no expectations." "I'd like that." Rachel intertwined her fingers with his. "I really like your offer." On Monday, Rachel had an unexpected visitor at work. Alice was standing at the office entrance, elegant as always, but with a trace of weariness on her face. "Do you have 5 minutes?" she asked instead of a greeting. They sat in a small park across the street. Two women, once close, now separated by an unbridgeable gulf. "I'm leaving," Alice said. "I got a job offer in St. Petersburg." "Congratulations," Rachel replied coolly. "It's not just about the job." Alice watched the cars passing by. "I realized I destroyed everything that could have been valuable in my life, our friendship, the chance at a relationship with Oliver. It's time to start fresh." "Does Oliver know?" Rachel asked, surprised that she even cared. "Yes," Alice nodded. "He wished me luck and said this is probably best for everyone." Rachel remained silent, unsure of what to say. The anger she once felt toward her former friend was slowly turning into a strange sense of compassion. Alice had spent her life waiting for a love that had never really existed the way she imagined it. "You know," Rachel finally said, "for a long time I thought I hated you. But now I realize, what I really feel is sorrow." "Sorrow?" Alice repeated. "You clung to a teenage infatuation for 20 years. You missed the chance to build real relationships, to start a family." "For what?" "For someone who was in love with an image in his head, not the real you." "I know," Alice smiled sadly. "The irony is, when I finally got what I thought I wanted for so long, I realized it wasn't what I needed at all." She stood up. Goodbye, Rachel. I hope you'll be happy. And you too. Rachel watched Alice walk away, her back straight, her stride firm. For the first time in 20 years, Alice had been completely honest, with herself and with the world. A year had passed since the divorce. Autumn had returned to the city. But now, it didn't feel to Rachel like a time of loss and fading. Rather, it felt like a season of mature, conscious beauty. In her new home, not an apartment anymore, but a small townhouse, there was cheerful bustle. "Mom, the salad's ready." Brittany called from the kitchen. "Great, sweetheart." Rachel was finishing setting the table. The first to arrive were her parents, tanned, rejuvenated after their expedition to the lake. Her father, unexpectedly, had gone with her mother, and the trip seemed to breathe new life into their relationship. "Rachel, you look wonderful." Her mother hugged her. "Happiness suits you." Next came Jeremy with a girl he nervously introduced as Amanda. A dark-haired, modest architecture student, Amanda smiled shyly, clearly nervous about meeting the family for the first time. "Amanda, don't believe the scary stories Jeremy told you about me," Rachel hugged the girl. "I'm not nearly as strict as he makes me sound." "He only said good things," Amanda smiled. "That you're the strongest woman he knows." Last came Rick, carrying a bottle of wine and a photo album from his recent travels. "Sorry I'm late." He kissed Rachel. Traffic. The living room was already full of conversation. Her father was telling Jeremy and Amanda about the beauty of the lake. Her mother was having a serious discussion with Brittany about her future plans to apply to art college. The doorbell rang. "That must be Oliver," Rachel said and went to open it. He had promised to stop by briefly to pick up the kids for the weekend. Oliver looked well, leaner, in better shape, with a new style of clothing. The relationship between the former spouses had gradually shifted into one of calm respect. He remained a good father to the kids but kept his distance from Rachel, understanding their story had ended. "Hi," he said, handing her a box of chocolates. "You've got a family dinner going on," he added. "Yes," Rachel nodded. "Want to join us?" "Not today." He shook his head. "I've got plans. Just came to say hi to the kids and confirm the weekend schedule." "Everything okay with you?" Rachel asked. "Yeah." Oliver smiled. "I started a new project, got into skiing. Things are falling into place." "I'm glad," she said sincerely. When Oliver left, Rachel returned to her guests. Rick was helping Brittany place the last of the dishes. Jeremy was telling a funny college story, making Amanda laugh. Her parents were flipping through Rick's photo album with interest. "Here it is, my happiness," Rachel thought, glancing around the room. Not the kind I imagined a year ago, but no less real for that. After dinner, once everyone had gone, Rachel stood by the window, watching the quiet street. Rick came up and gently wrapped his arms around her shoulders. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About the path that brought me here." She smiled. "About the pain of betrayal, the shock of discoveries, the bitterness of disappointments, and how without this path there would be no current peace." "Life is a strange thing," Rick agreed. "Sometimes you have to lose what you think is your happiness to find what it really is." Rachel turned to him, and in her smile, reflected in the window glass, was a reconciliation with the past and openness to the future. New plants on the windowsill, a repaired old photograph on the wall, rearranged furniture, symbols of change in her life. "I regret nothing," she said, looking into Rick's eyes. "Every loss, every pain brought me here, to this moment, to you." Rick gently kissed her, and Rachel thought that sometimes losses really do open the way to unexpected happiness. The spring crisis was replaced by summer struggle, autumn acceptance, and winter cleansing. And now a new spring was coming, a symbol of rebirth and new beginnings.